What's up, losers? Today I'm back to deliver another exciting installment in my fatlogic series, where I read and react to funny posts from r/fatlogic. This is episode 46 in the series, and I'm looking forward to seeing what today's posts have in store for me. So without further ado, let's get into it.
For frick's sake, eat emotionally, eat mindlessly, eat to feel joy, or to soothe pain, eat for fun, eat to cure boredom, eat to enjoy yourself, and being alive.
Okay, I'm going to go out on a limb here, and say that this is not good advice. Like, at all. It couldn't be much worse. Really. Obviously there's nothing wrong with enjoying food. It is, after all, a big part of our lives, and it can be intimately connected to our sense of family and cultural groundedness. I certainly don't think we should treat eating as some bland exercise in mindless repetition. By all means, appreciate the food you eat, and the experience of sharing food with those you care about. But using food as an emotional safety blanket, or a response to boredom, yeah, don't do that. Developing that kind of dependency will only compel you to overeat. And keep overeating, and overeat even more, when your already inflated portion sizes don't provide the satisfaction that they once did. You have to draw the line somewhere, and it's better to draw it sooner rather than later, because the further down that road you go, the harder it gets to turn back. If you're bored all the time, try out a new hobby, or find something productive to do. Don't just shrug and order a pizza. It might seem like a trivial decision in the moment, to spend the afternoon eating in front of the TV, but if you allow this to turn into a habit, you will be making it infinitely more difficult for future you to change course. So I suggest that whenever possible, stick to pre-planned meal times, and don't use food to plug gaps in your schedule. As for using food to soothe pain, well, I can't even put into words how much of a bad idea that is. If you're struggling emotionally on a recurring basis, you don't need food, you need therapy. Binge eating might provide some momentary relief from your pain, but it isn't going to resolve anything. It's just going to externalize your internal problems, and ultimately, it'll make you feel worse. Fat acceptance wants you to think that it's fine to cope by stuffing yourself with food. That you can't be happy in a thin body, and that eating is the only thing that can possibly make you feel better. But that's just not true. There is another way, and it will allow you to deal with uncomfortable emotions sustainably. Rather than sacrificing your physical health to numb the pain with ever larger binges. You just have to be willing to try.
Fat is a neutral description, the words people often use to try to replace it, perpetuate stigmas. The problem with overweight and obese.
Obesity isn't healthy. I'm obese. A lot of my family is obese. My grandpa died of diabetes. Some of my family have sleep apnea, or injure themselves more easily when they're active. I know that I'm not healthy, and that I have a bad relationship with food. Rather than tell obese people, you're perfectly fine, maybe we should be like, it's okay if you're fat. It's your life, without claiming they're perfectly healthy. We don't pretend like people who smoke, or drink, or have anorexia, are healthy. So why is the fat positivity movement pushing the narrative that being fat is healthy?
That is you, and your family dynamic. Not all plus-sized people follow your history. You don't have to be real thin to be healthy. Thinness is not an indicator of good health. You can weigh 200 pounds, at 5'5", and have all normal test results. You could also be 5'9", and have hypertension, and high cholesterol levels. It isn't the body habitus. It's how you treat it.
Man, whenever I see posts like this, that include sane replies from fat people, who understand that obesity is unhealthy, I always imagine how frustrating it must be to fall into that category. Like, on top of having to deal with your weight problem, you're constantly surrounded by these fat activists on social media, who make ridiculous claims on your behalf, and cause people to have a lower opinion of you by association. Cheat must suck, and I commend my fat homies out there dealing with such nonsense for your patience. I don't know if I would be able to take it. It's funny to see how casually the replying commenter dismisses the first commenter's whole sad family history as simply being a result of their family dynamic, despite the statistical improbability of this, and the conditions described being unrelated outside of the shared association with obesity. Seems plausible, right? They also use the tried and true technique of misrepresentation to argue their case, saying that you don't have to be rail thin to be healthy, which, while true, is not what any opponents of Hayes actually advocate for. There's plenty of room between obese and rail thin, but fat activists need to paint things in black and white binary terms to try to turn this into a both sides issue, when in reality, there's only one side that's trying to get people to exist at an unhealthy size. And that's fat acceptance. And, to complete the fallacy smorgasbord to which we're being treated, they point out that some people who are fat might have normal test results, while some people who are thin might have bad test results, which is such a non-point that it feels beneath me to respond to it. But I'll do it anyway. It's a matter of averages and likelihoods. Sure, there are going to be outliers on either side of the ledger. But in general, you are more likely to have normal test results if you are thin, and much less likely to have normal test results if you are obese. Especially over a long period of time. Pointing out that statistical anomalies exist doesn't make your argument any more convincing. It just makes it painfully obvious that you're grasping at straws and wasting everyone's time in the process.
When you see thin people whining about mean fat people, what you are seeing is someone who wants to steal a life-saving resource from someone in danger, so they can misuse that resource to soothe their feels.
Okay, so I mainly just included this one because I want someone to help me identify what it's actually talking about. I'm not trying to be funny when I say that either. Sometimes I play up my confusion a bit for comedic effect, but this is not one of those occasions. The specific part that has so eluded my comprehension, my white whale, if you will, is the so-called life-saving resource that whining thin people are denying fat people. My first thought was that this must have been one of the usual fat acceptance gripes. You know, medical fat phobia depriving fat people of proper care, or something like that, but then the post says that thin people want to misuse the resource to soothe their feels. So that doesn't check out. Right, thin people don't misuse medical care to soothe their feels. Unless this is some sort of coded language that I'm just not clued into. But assuming that this is not the case, it must be something else. My mind then goes to thin people taking oversized clothing from stores that fat activists feel entitled to. But that doesn't work either. Because as much of a fuss as fat activists might make over the availability of plus-size clothing, surely they wouldn't go so far as to describe it as a life-saving resource. Like, you're not going to die from having to wear a hoodie that's too small for you. Right. In short, I'm stumped. I just don't get it. But I want to understand. If anyone has any ideas, or even better, has decisively cracked the code, please let me know in the comments. Put me out of my misery. It's possible that the answer is obvious and right in front of me, and that my brain is just not working today. If that's the case, I will be happy to take the L and acknowledge my dumbness. All I want is an end to this interminable confusion. So yeah, if you have any ideas, help a brother out. Well, that's all I've got for you today. I hope you enjoyed the posts and my commentary. What do you think? Is it a good idea to eat mindlessly to soothe pain and cure boredom. Are health problems people associate with obesity really just the product of family dynamics? Are thin people trying to steal a life-saving resource from fat people? Let me know in the comments. As always, don't forget to like and subscribe, or I'll go to your house next time I'm sad, and eat all your food, so that I can soothe the pain. Just kidding, haha. Anyway, catch you later.